Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, Dandelion community. Whenever you're watching this podcast, you have tuned in to the Dandelion Dialogue, and I have with me none other than me, Angelo Taylor. Let's give it up, community. Yes, another dynamic change agent and a change maker in this city. He's an up and coming leader in this city that I know and I believe without a shadow of a doubt is going to make a difference in this city. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. Can I do that?
I think that'd be great.
Welcome. So glad that you're here. I'm going to tell the Dandelion community a little bit about you. Is that okay?
Yes.
Just a little bit. It's a lot to tell, but I'm going to tell a little bit. So you are the founder of Me Angelo Taylor International and the creator of Victory Self-Worth and Value Program. MTI was designed to inspire people to take 100% ownership of their lives. You know, I'm all about that, being the best version of yourself and providing solutions through motivation, purpose, and encouragement. The Victory Program, ladies and gentlemen, is an evidence-based curriculum designed to help guide participants towards healthy self-esteem and develop their capacity to build healthy relationships that foster positive personal development. I don't know about you all, Dandelion community, but we need that more than ever, especially with our young people. And I'm not talking about elementary and high school students either. I'm talking about some of our young adults, even some of our adults. Mr. Taylor, need this help, need this support, need this guidance. You are a motivational speaker, which is where I met you. And you speak about your life experiences, my goodness, which totally pulled at my heartstrings, totally made me curious to want to know more about who you were. You are currently a retired 16-year veteran of the Memphis Police Department, where you were part of the Officers in Schools unit. And during your tenure, you created several initiatives that focus on social awareness. Can I get some snaps for that? Yeah, social awareness, which the community knows that is one of the key competencies of social emotional intelligence, which is what this platform is all about. As you know, I'm on a mission to try to help the community become more aware, more involved, more engaged about their social emotional selves. And social awareness is one of those competencies. You also are a former member of Toastmasters International, the Yes I Can Club, where you served as the club level director of public relations. And you're also an author. I want you to tell us about that in a little bit. But you now serve as the director of programs for Families Matter Memphis, a local nonprofit with a strong emphasis on the engagement of the father within the family unit. I welcome you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you with a welcome like that. It just really warms my heart, and I definitely appreciate you. From the moment that we met, just our conversation, it has always been something of positivity, of encouragement and uplifting, and I just commend you for this platform, for what you're doing with the Dandelions, and just bringing more awareness around just our need to be more socially, emotionally intelligent, and to move into a realm of just being aware of who we are as individuals. I think it's awesome.
Thank you for that. I remember you when we were at Russ College, and but there were several speakers there. But there were two in particular that stood out, and I remember trying to get through the crowd to touch the hem of your garment. I was determined. I said, now the people are standing in line to get to him like the pastor at church, but I'm getting up there. I was determined because you have a message, a powerful message. And, we've had the awesome opportunity of having you to speak on another platform with another group that I work with, and they're still talking about your message. So we are so excited to be able to have you on today and to get you to talk a little bit about self-awareness, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Self-awareness. You know, I love a good flower, and you know my favorite flower is the dandelion, of course. And because that dandelion grows where it's planted, you know, where it lands is where it grows. And when we think of that dandelion, you really, in order to have the full awesomeness of it, you have to first see it, right? And see it in all its glory. And remember when we were children, we'd pluck it, blow it, watch those seeds, right? And then for that moment, it was magical. I think of self-awareness as that. It's something that's magical, right? It's a magical flower, and with all your imagination, you can dream what you want to dream in that moment.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
So I have you here with us today to just talk to us a little bit about self-awareness from all the platforms, the lenses, the spaces, and the places that you have dwelled and worked and served. We want to hear from you. And we want to hear from it from a male perspective too. You know? We want to hear from you. So I first want to ask you, what do you think about self-awareness? What is the big deal? It's a buzzword now. It's all over. When you talk about workplace leadership, self-awareness is going to come up. Google it. It's going to show up, right?
Yes,
Forbes, in one of their articles, they're talking about self-awareness. Why is it such a big deal, you think?
Well, for me, I believe that it's important because in order for you to have healthy relationship, you first have to know who you are. You have to be comfortable in who you are. And it is, in my opinion, a journey that you go on to become self-aware. You don't just arrive as a person who understands, you know, what it means to walk into spaces, to be comfortable, whether you are being celebrated, whether you're not, just to know who you are. And so for me, self-awareness is just simply you taking the time to learn about yourself. And I'll give you an example. I recently did some work with some men, and in this environment, every one of these men that we were working with, they were having issues in their relationships with their co-parent or their children's mothers. And I asked the question of each one of them, how many of you ever have had the opportunity to live by yourselves? And most, I would say about 90% of the men said they went from living at home with their mothers to living in a home with a young lady in a relationship. And so what happens in that is you never get the opportunity to be in a space and be quiet and figure out who you are and figure out what it is that you like, what you dislike, figure out just things about yourself. How do I find my peace? How do I get to a place to where I am comfortable in my own skin? And I think all of that is a part of the process of becoming self-aware. And so many of our men, you know, they struggle in that area to be able to know and be able to take the constructive criticism. When people are telling you things that will help you be better, all of that applies and is a part of that process to becoming more self-aware.
Thank you for sharing that. As you were talking, I was just thinking about just our historical trauma, generational trauma that we've endured as African American people. And when you think about that trauma specifically when it comes to men, we wonder why men struggle with being able to connect, right? Especially in that social emotional space. If we're talking about being able to express your feelings, being able to understand the feelings and emotions of others, that's not easy. Well, like you said, when you have not dealt with your own traumas, you know?
Absolutely.
So what do you think is the remedy to a man who is in that space where they want to be that best version of themselves, as you talk about improving their lives? Where do they start? You know, how do they begin the process of change?
So for me, I've developed out through the Victory Self-Worth and Value program pretty much a system of how I believe that men and people should operate. And so the first thing that I think that we should do is learn how to have a better self-esteem, that we need to work on our own self-esteem. And so how do we do that? For me, I think that the first thing is that you need to know that your life has a purpose. that you are here for a reason, and that reason is typically going to be in some way, shape, form, or fashion to help someone else. Right? So understanding that, and then finding the meaning of that purpose. How do I dive into the meaning of who I am as a man or who I am as a person?
Yeah.
And then the last thing is when you understand that you have a purpose and you understand that your life has meaning, the last part is to understand that you are valuable. You are valuable to your community. You are valuable to your family. And if you can find that, and if you can work in that, then you can develop a healthy self-esteem. From there, once I have a good self-esteem or good feelings and understanding of who I am, now I can move into developing positive relationships. Because what I've seen in a lot of men is oftentimes, even with domestic situations, you read the piece about being a police officer. What I saw with a lot of the men that were abusers or things like that, it was really not about the woman. It was really about the man not being confident in, or feeling having a high self-esteem in who he was. And so I take that out on the woman that I'm with, because I'm in the world and I don't feel like I'm a valuable part of it. I don't feel like I have a place that I can have a voice. I don't feel like I can, move forward. I feel like there's so many different barriers. And so what we want to do is help them first find that self-esteem, so that now I can communicate in relationship. And that doesn't have to be in our relationships with our significant others. That communication piece is in every relationship. That means in the workforce. That means in our homes with our children. I need to know how to communicate in these different spaces and understand that every space that I walk into is different. So for instance, if I'm talking to my guy friends and we're having a conversation, I can have a different conversation than I can with my wife, because my wife is a different person, the different levels of sensitivity. Well, when I'm talking to my children, there is another level of sensitivity when I'm on the job. So we need to learn how to create the spaces to have that communication so that we can develop those healthy relationships. And then finally, in that process, it's the personal development. Okay. If I have a good self-esteem, and I know how to develop healthy relationships through understanding humility, understanding how to acknowledge when I'm wrong, go back and apologize for those things. Yeah. Now I'm ready to go into that final phase, which is the personal development phase, which is, I believe that every person has an area of land. And when I say land, I don't mean physical land, but just a space that we are meant to dominate in. Okay. Everybody's land is not the same. Everybody doesn't have the same platform. But when we can get into a place of domination in an area, now I feel better about my existence as a person. But so many people that I see that lack that self-awareness, that lack of having high self-esteem, and lack the ability to develop healthy relationships, ultimately they're looking for a place to say, I belong. That's why you see so many young men who join gangs. They're looking for a place to belong. Right. And so I think that is all kind of a part of that process.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot, and you're right, everybody wants to be seen, valued, and heard, So when you think about self-awareness, it seems like a easy word, okay, be aware of self. But to you, what does that really mean? To the average listener, first time hearing self-awareness, what does that word mean?
If I were to break it down with one word, and I'm going to try to break that it's a very complex word, but I'm going to try to use one word for me that has worked for me in my life. It's having humility. It's walking daily in humility and giving people the grace and space to be their authentic selves. I try to do that with others because I desire it for myself. I'm not perfect. I try to be a good version or a better version of myself every day, but I fall short in so many areas. And so when I interact with people, I try to have the humility to give them the grace and space to be themselves. And that is a huge part of being self-aware. It's just the ability to be humble and say, I don't know everything. I think I told one of the classes that I was teaching that if we as people could learn to be both the student and the teacher at any moment, then our lives would be so much better. That means knowing what I know, but also knowing what I don't know, and being able to say, teach me, show me, help me be better. Imagine how many relationships would be better if a man could tell his woman, I don't know how to be the man that you need me to be. I didn't have that modeled in front of me. The things that you need from me, help me, show me. Don't just assume because you see a man in stature that I know. And especially in our community, so many of our men are broken boys. And you see a man, but really I'm a broken boy who didn't receive everything that I needed to become the man that you need me to be.
That's powerful. And I hear that when I hear humility, then that means I've got to remove the ego.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's not easy. It's not easy, especially for just anyone, but especially for a man to remove that ego. What are the steps? What steps, does it take to even realize, oh, I'm being an egotistical idiot, okay, in this moment. Oh, but it's impacting everything around you. That's an example of not being aware, right?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
where does one begin to remove the ego? How do you go from A to B? You see the world crumbling around you because of that pride, because you haven't stepped into humility. What must one do?
Well, the first thing is, I as a young man, my mother would always say this term to me, that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And so you should always be assessing your life. As a man, you should be assessing your family, everything around you. And so if things are out of whack or in disarray, then I should be assessing how can I let those things be better. Now, oftentimes men, when things are the status quo, we don't notice it or we don't think about it. So for me, what made me really start to look at myself is when in my earlier years, I went through a divorce. And in those moments of divorce, I started to look at who I was, and I said, I didn't like what I saw. And so even though I went through that process, that was the beginning for me. So most of the time for a man to change, it's often it doesn't mean a divorce. It just means that something has to come to a head to get his attention, right? And then when it grabs your attention, and that could be, being involved in an accident, or it just has to be something to catch your attention. And then once it catches your attention, then you begin to reflect and that I want to be. So it started with a question. The question was, the first thing was, do I like what I see? And then, do I want to continue to be this person? Well, the answer for myself was no. That I want to be a better man. I want to have a greater impact. And so that was the start. Now, once you start the process of looking at yourself, it doesn't happen overnight. There's still moments of pride. There's still moments, and you have to get to a place where you realize, I ask men this question: if you and your significant other are in a disagreement, is it more important for you to be right or to have the relationship? Because you could be right and be sitting in the room by yourself. Or do you value the relationship enough to say, you know what, I'm going to let that go. Now, of course you're not going to let everything go every time something happens, but you have to pick and choose your battles. And when you can get to a place where you learn to pick and choose those things, now I'm also learning to communicate. Men struggle with telling a woman, you hurt my feelings. That hurt my feelings. Quick story. So I'll show you how this works. A year and a half ago, my wife and I, she was working, and so I made the decision to clean up the house. And so I had cleaned up everything, had it smelling good. And I put a candle on the stand to burn, because it was like a fragrance candle. Now, typically when my wife comes home, she'll get home around, maybe if she gets off at 5, she's home by 5:20. Well, I had to go back to work, right? And so I left about maybe 5:10, but I'm thinking, okay, she'll be home in 10 minutes. So I know the candle was burning, it's in a safe space, but she'll be home in 10 minutes. So I leave, she calls me and she's trying to get dinner.
Yeah.
Well, in the process of trying to get dinner, she says that it took a little bit longer, so she got home about an hour later.
Oh, wow.
But when she came home, so I'm waiting on a phone call from her to say, baby, you did a great job cleaning the house, thank you. But the call that I got was, you tried to burn the house down, didn't you?
Oh, my goodness.
Now,
Yeah.
in that moment, I was like, all right, okay, no, I said, well, no, I thought you'd be home earlier, but I got off the phone. And the rest of that day, I was in my feelings about it. And when I got home, I said that, well, I could hold on to this or I could say something. And I told her, I said, well, when you called me, what I was hoping to hear was, honey, you did an awesome job. Thank you. The house is clean. And thank you for doing that. And then you could have said, well, why did you leave the candle burning? I said, the way that you came or the way that you delivered it, you delivered what you perceived to be an issue before you said you acknowledged what I had done well. A lot of men don't have the capacity to verbalize themselves in that way. So when I did that, I was able to help her understand. I said, if you in the future, if something like that happens, acknowledge the good, then acknowledge where you felt like I did. I said, because typically you would have been home in 10 minutes.
Wow.
But you stopped and it took a little bit longer, so I assumed 10 minutes. The candle burning is not a big deal. And so to say that is kind of how it should look, where I can say to you, that bothered me. Because oftentimes men don't say what bothers them.
Right.
We just sit on it.
Right.
And those are the things that cause us to die earlier, because we sit on our stress. And then when the stress comes out, it comes out in a way of anger, because I've tried to be quiet for so long and I felt like I'm not being heard.
You said a word there. That was self-awareness, that was social awareness, that was relationship management, self-management. That was all the competencies of social emotional intelligence. What an awesome example of that. What a way to have communication and conflict resolution in your marriage. Think about what that would look like in all the relationships as a parent and child, in the workplace, right? In marriages, friendships. What a better world it would be, huh?
And if we
knew it,
then we could teach it.
Then we can teach it. And that's why this work of social emotional intelligence is so important. This platform, this focus. So thank you for sharing that story. That was powerful. So I want to ask you, is this true or false? Men don't have self-awareness.
That's absolutely false.
I know some women that are big to differ. They'll say men do not have self-awareness. Talk to me about that.
Well, if it's something that can be gained, of course, both men and women will have it. I think so oftentimes as men, we don't feel like we're heard.
Okay.
So you will get a shut down version of a man. And that shut down version of a man, you will think that he doesn't have the ability to have that social awareness. But if you put him in a space where he feels like he has a voice, he will absolutely show you, he will shock you with who he is.
Right.
Okay? And so I think that being able to do that, understanding that, I think that creates a space, giving a man a space where he feels comfortable to share how he feels, especially in his home, is one of the things that we have to do. Because when we do that, then you'll see that man become a better version.
Absolutely. Well, I know that the Dandelion community has gotten so many nuggets from what you have shared. And my very last question I want to ask you is, what can we do as a community in the state that we're in this city, in the world, in the community? How can we bring self-awareness to the forefront? What can you tell the Destination Dandelion community that they can do right now, whether they're a parent, a teacher, a community leader, or just a citizen in this city? What is one word that you can give them right now that they need to hold on to and move forward with?
I think the first thing is we have to be honest with ourselves. We as a community are failing ourselves.
Right.
We are at a place where we are not holding ourselves accountable. We're looking to other entities, whether it be the government, whether it be, we have to become that we have to save ourselves. We have to become a participant in our own rescue. And so with our children, how do we not know where they are? A lot of the crime that's going on, as a mother, how do you not know where your 16-year-old, 14, 15-year-old is? Fathers, why are you not, with all that's going on, why are you not engaging in with your children to see what's going on? And then even on a school level, when we talk about what we're doing with our young people, our classes, I've always felt like we have the opportunity to change education. And I think that Memphis and Shelby County will be a great place. But we should be teaching these things to our children before we get to a place of asking them to read, write, and all of that.
Right.
Can we teach them the skills to be able to articulate themselves, to talk about and express their feelings in a better way? And I think when we do that, we can change a lot. So I think just being honest with ourselves is the best thing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Dandelion community, you heard it first from Mr. Taylor. He's given us marching orders. Let us take that. Let's take heed to it. And where can we find more information about you?
Yes, ma'am. So the organization is Miangelo Taylor International. My website is my name. It's a little bit different. MEIANGELO. Last name is Taylor, TAYLOR.com. If you go to the website, then you will be able to see information. My phone number is 901-288-8252. And of course, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and also on Twitter. So also you can reach out from those platforms. And definitely would love to talk to you more about how we can impact our community and make change.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Dandelion community, you've heard it here. We've got marching orders. Let's get self-aware. I want you all to go to the website, to DestinationDandelion.com. Sign up for some of the sessions that are going on. If you'd like to be interviewed, if you have ideas about how you feel that we can do better in the community with bringing about self-awareness, please reach out to me. I look forward to hearing from you, and you all have a wonderful, wonderful day.